Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm here to take you through to the lunch break, so stay tuned. We've got good things on the other side of this. So people and leaders are the heart and soul of our organisations, and their impact on your customers, your business, and your industry cannot be underestimated. And so with this, my team and I at Inventium, we decided earlier this year to conduct some research, our Future of Work research, where we wanted to speak to business leaders across a range of different organisations to understand what were some of the biggest challenges that they were grappling with as they seek to embrace the future of work, and also to get a bit of inspiration to share with you and other people like you to help you to ultimately embrace the future of work. Now, I am an organisational psychologist, and so I am very passionate about creating awesome workplaces and workplaces where people can really achieve their goals and have a positive impact on the world. And so with this research, I really wanted to find some inspiration and help answer some of the biggest challenges that our leaders are facing. So we published the research earlier this year. We've had lots of conversations with leadership teams and HR teams, and what I wanted to share with you today was some of the top insights that really resonated with people and give you a bit of a dose of inspiration to take you forward. Now, if we think about the future of work, and when I talk about the future of work, it means a lot of different things to different people, but really I'm talking about your leaders and your culture and your people. And are they set up to embrace the future challenges that your industry and your business are going to face? So I want to, do a little bit of a poll of the room and just thinking about your current business, your current people, your current culture and your leaders. How confident are you that they are set up to fully embrace the future of work? So we're going to do a round of head, shoulders, knees and toes. So if you are super, super confident in your people, your culture and your leaders, they are so set up for success, I want you to give it a heads. If you're a little bit less confident, it's a shoulders. A little bit confident, less confidence, knees. And if you are completely lacking in confidence, then you're going to be down on the ground with your toes. Okay? So everyone up on your feet. Let's do a bit of a head, shoulders, knees and toes. So cast your vote mentally, get clear on what you're going to say. How set up for you for success are your people and leaders? Ready, set, go. Has everyone just got sore knees and doesn't want to reach down to the ground? Okay, we're seeing, all right, a lot of heads, a lot of shoulders. Look at your colleagues around you. Did some of you come with some of your partners? And I'm not sure about that. All right, okay, I'm sensing a lot of optimism, which is great. You can take a seat now. You have to stay like that for the next 45 minutes. No, you don't. So a lot of optimism in the room, which is great. So I guess that's a really good lens for me to come at this from. So if I had you all on the ground, then I would kind of roll out the therapy couch and we would, have a nice conversation about how we can get you through to Christmas and survive. But it sounds like we've got some good optimists in the room. So I'm really keen to share with you some of the challenges that we identified in the research, but also give you a bit of inspiration to help you as you think ahead to 2025. So I'm from an organisation called Inventium, and Inventium, we are a consultancy that exists to help create more pioneering and progressive workplaces. So we leverage research and insights from the world of psychology and neuroscience and business management, and we take all of that research and convert that into insights and tools that we give to people like yourselves to help you to create more progressive workplaces. Now, with this research that we conducted earlier this year, we went out and did a review of the literature to identify some workplace trends that are currently impacting workplaces. And then we used that to have some in-depth conversations with 15 executives from a range of cross-industry organisations. So here are some of the organisations that we spoke to. There are a few that haven't been identified because they decided to stay anonymous, but you can see already from this little subset that we've got people from a range of different industries. But what you'll very soon see is that the challenges that they are facing are really common because at the end of the day, all of their challenges come back to their people and their leaders. And at the end of the day, we're all leaders, right? We're all people. So I'm going to be sharing with you 2 insights from the research, and I'm really keen to also give you a little bit of inspiration from the research as well. So a question for you all as we get started. I want to know, what does the job description of a people leader or manager typically include? So if you were to write down the job description of a people leader or manager, what would you write in that job description? Who can share with me? You can just yell out and I'll replay to the group. What do we expect of our people leaders? To develop and mentor. Thank you. High EQ. Very nice. Provide context. That's true. Give context for all these decisions that we're making. Yep. Create the vision. That's right. Anything else? To inspire, that's right. So already we've got a little bit of a pretty challenging job description that we've started to put together across, just 30 seconds of asking a few people. And really, we've only just hit a little bit of the tip of the iceberg in terms of the real expectations that we have of our people leaders. And so this is one of the most popular insights that came out of the research, is the challenge that we have with our people leaders and the pressure that we continue to put on them. So with this insight, people leaders are walking on a higher than ever tightrope, but who will catch them if they fall? We know that there is a growing job description of our managers. Never before have we asked so much of our people leaders. And it's kind of funny because at the end of the day, to operate as a manager, many of us have never really been trained in how exactly do I be a good manager. And we continue to elevate people to these positions where we have so much expectation of them in terms of the executive business leader expectations, as well as the team people expectations. And at the end of the day, many of us are not really training our leaders to be equipped to deal with all those expectations. So this quote from Adam Grant, who is a Wharton professor and organizational psychologist, he said, "Management is the only job that you don't practice before you do it." For so many of our leaders, we kind of thrust them into this position of looking after a team. We expect them to be technically capable, but also able to manage that team, motivate them, inspire them, deal with their emotional challenges, and ensure that they're all healthy and well as well. And not many of them actually get the training and the support that they need to meet all of those challenges. So this is the first challenge for our people leaders. We're expecting so much of them, and yet we continue to not invest in building their skills, and we kind of just hope that they'll develop those skills over time and cross our fingers. Now, that's not the only challenge that our people leaders are facing. So a question for you all. Can you tell me, what do these 3 people have in common? We've got J.K. Rowling, we've got Dame Edna, and we've got Ellen DeGeneres. Does anyone know what these 3 people have in common? They are influencers, yes? Anything else? I heard a word, controversy. That's right. So these 3 people have all at some point in their career been cancelled. They've been cancelled for saying things that are quite controversial, and I don't need to repeat what they said, but they have all been cancelled at some point in their career. And you might be sitting there thinking, okay, but what has that got to do with our leaders? Now, through our research, what we heard from many, many leaders is this idea that because of the expectations of the workforce, there's so much pressures on leaders to get it right. And if you say something that is not exactly politically correct, then you risk being cancelled as a leader. So suddenly we're expecting our leaders to be absolute perfect communicators, to know exactly what to say. And this is already challenging, but then they've got this diverse workforce in front of them. People that don't look like them, don't sound like them, and don't think like them. So it's even harder to nail your messages if you've got a bunch of people that really don't align with who you are as a person. And so for leaders, they're facing this challenge of how do I make sure that what I say is not going to cost me my reputation and it's not going to get me cancelled. And so one executive from a global technology company that we spoke to, she said, this new generation has this high standard of what they expect from people and what they will call out if they don't like. It changes the way that people communicate. So we've got these high expectations of our leaders, but we've also got these team members that are saying, if you don't get it right, we're going to cast you out and we'll never follow you again. So what do we do about this? So we can get a little bit of inspiration from Seek. Seek actually were awarded the best large workplace to work in Australia last year, and they were celebrated for their approach to leadership development. So on the screen here on the left, we've got Ian Narev, who is the CEO of Seek, and they've got some pretty big growth aspirations. So their current focus strategically is how they grow from Australia to across the APAC region. And Ian knows that if they're going to be successful in this growth, they need to ensure that they've got the best leaders that are set up for success to drive this growth. And so they've set up a 12-month leadership development program. And this leadership development program seeks to kind of stimulate the environment that these leaders will need to be in to grow and to thrive across the APAC region. So it uses training that's in-person and virtual, as well as virtual reality, to simulate what these leaders need to do to be successful as they grow. Now, what's most important about this program, it was for the top 50 executives across Seek. It was a 12-month-long program, and each of these executives committed 130 hours of their time over that 12 months. Now, this is what I call creating space and time for leaders to actually develop the skills that they need to grow your business. And I love that there's this sponsorship from Ian as well. He personally invited all these leaders to go along to this program. And he said to them, if you can't make one of these sessions, then you need to give me a written response as to why you can't. And luckily, they had everyone sign up and go to all those sessions. So this is just one example of one organization that's really committing to their leaders and recognizing that if you don't invest in your leaders, they're not just going to magically develop the skills that they need to succeed as we embrace the future of work. Now, on top of developing your leaders, you need to make sure that they've got the support that they need as well. We know that they're dealing with a lot of challenges. I had one leader tell me the other day that, just within her team, she's got 2 people that are going through a divorce, one that's caring for her elderly mother, and another that's just trying to go back to university after having kids. So all these challenges in her team, and she's just trying to help them get the job done. So we need to create support systems for our people leaders. We know that if our leaders don't succeed, we will not succeed as a business. So I love what Zillow do. Zillow are a real estate marketplace. They're a remote organization, and they create peer-to-peer manager groups where they set up managers in one-on-one relationships so that those managers can speak to other managers and talk about the challenges that they might be facing. It's all about creating this psychologically safe place where, if I'm about to have a performance conversation with someone in my team, I can role play that with someone who's in a similar situation to me, and I can practice what I need to say. And I can also share with one of my colleagues the challenges that I'm facing as a leader. So this is just one way that they're trying to support their managers and recognizing the heavy load that their leaders are facing. Now, I do think that at the end of the day, one of the challenges that prevents us from investing in our leaders is that it can be incredibly hard to measure the impact of that investment. So we as humans are complex beings, and we definitely still haven't nailed how we can measure the return on investment that we do make in our people and our culture. So one organization that I spoke to in the research, they are a consumer and manufacturing goods organization. They had some feedback from their annual engagement survey, that their people were not feeling so great about their opportunities for career development and growth in their organisation. So off the back of this data point, they decided that they were going to invest in a whole range of initiatives to try to boost development and career growth in their organisation. So here's what they did. They first of all created a lot more transparency on roles and progression. They wanted to make it super clear to their people, here is how you get a promotion and progress through our organisation. They also helped to set up development plans. So they wanted their people to know how to actually write down what are my career goals and how am I going to achieve them here. They set up quarterly check-ins with their managers. So each manager had to have a quarterly check-in with every person in their team to talk about their development goals. And finally, they invested in a relatively expensive careers fair where they got the whole team together for a day. They talked all about careers and development and growth and getting everyone talking about how they could really grow their careers at this organisation. Now, 12 months later, they retested, they did their engagement survey again, and guess what happened? There was absolutely no change in that factor. Now, at this point, it's incredibly frustrating because we don't know. Was the problem that we didn't actually identify the correct problem to be solved? Was it that these solutions were just not great? Or was it a measurement issue? Did we just not actually measure the right outcomes? We don't know. But we do know we've invested a lot of time and a lot of money and we haven't seen a positive outcome. And I think one of the biggest challenges is that we do tend to have an over-reliance on vanity metrics in the world of people and culture. So vanity metrics are kind of like Derek Zoolander. They look good, but there's not a lot of substance. And so vanity metrics are those metrics that we tend to present in isolation, like an outcome, that don't necessarily show a clear cause and effect. So we might see vanity metrics in terms of our engagement scores. We might know we've got a great engagement score, but we don't necessarily know what's produced that great score. We might know that we've got a very good, diverse workforce, but do we know the impact that that diversity is having on our business performance? And we might know that our people love going to our training sessions, but are they actually changing their behaviour as a result of attending that training? So all too often we rely on these vanity metrics, and it means that we don't really know if the time and the money that we're investing in our people and culture is actually producing a positive outcome. So one thing that we also tend to do is mistake correlation and causation. So with this data up here, you can see that per capita cheese consumption increases at the same rate that the number of people who die by becoming tangled in their bed sheets increases. Now, this is not fake data, by the way. This is real data. We might look at this data and say, well, obviously that is not a causation. Obviously we know that eating cheese does not cause you to die by becoming tangled in your bed sheets. But if we replace those axes with data from our own business and resources that we've invested over the last 12 months in our people and our culture, it becomes a lot harder to see the difference between correlation and causation. So we need to get a whole lot better at actually measuring, if we're investing resources in our people and our culture, what's the actual impact that that is having? Now, one way in which we can do this, I think the last panel we already heard so much about innovation and the importance of taking a customer-centric approach. And in fact, I presented at Curious Thinkers back in 2018 and I talked about innovation and taking a customer-centric approach. We've all invested across the industry in building customer centricity into our business. And the most progressive organisations are taking all of those skills that we've invested and transferring that over to building people-centric organisations. So what I encourage you to think about doing is taking all of the skills that you've developed to help you understand your customers and make sure that you're really solving their problems and innovating for them, and take all those skills and apply them to adopting a more people-centric approach to your organisation. So one organisation that I think does a really good job of this in a really clear, simple way is Deloitte with their people panel. So back in about 2021, Deloitte were experiencing some pretty significant drops in their engagement scores. Now, across Australia, Deloitte have 13,000 employees, and they were at a loss as to what they could really do to boost their engagement scores. Now, they didn't want to just go out and start investing in all these initiatives without actually knowing that it was going to work. So they created their people panel, which is a group of volunteers that they speak to, these employees, that is quite diverse, and they test new ideas with, and they co-create solutions and run experiments with the people panel before they roll out initiatives across the entire organisation. And so this is just one way in which they're taking a more people-centric approach to their people and culture. They're not just investing in lots of training and investing in lots of perks and benefits. They're actually speaking to their people and asking, what do you want? And how can we solve your problem and ensure that we're going to get the best out of you while you work with us? Because at the end of the day, what we need to remember is that if our leaders fail, we fail. I think to bring this back to ultimately what this insight is about is that we need to invest in our leaders. And that's really the most effective way that we can drive meaningful change across our organisation. But with that investment, we need to make sure that we're measuring the impact of that investment so that we can be sure that that's a good return on our investment. So I want to give you just a little summary of what I want you to stop and start doing based on this insight. So first of all, what I want you to stop doing is promoting people who are just technically strong into people leadership positions. We know that to be successful as a leader, you need to have a deep care and understanding of your people. And being technically strong is not enough. We need people who care about their team, who want to understand their challenges, and who want to take a coaching approach to development and growth. So we need to widen our lens and think about how we're promoting people to be the most successful leaders that they can be, and the broader set of skills that we really need from our leaders if we want to embrace the future of work. And what we can start doing is proactively supporting our supporters. So our leaders are multipliers. If we support our leaders, then they can support their teams. So we need to invest in our leaders, give them the skills and the resources they need to be successful, and look after them as well, because they're facing a lot of demands, and they are the key to success. All right, let's talk about the second insight that I'm going to share with you today. And this insight is about the world of hybrid work. So hybrid by design versus hybrid by default leads to very different outcomes. So in our research, we spoke to organisations from both ends of the scale. So some of the organisations that we spoke to, organisations like Atlassian and Google, they shared with us that hybrid work and embracing more flexible ways of working had had an absolute significant and positive impact on their business performance. And we also had other organisations all the way down the other end of the scale that said that actually hybrid work had had a negative impact on their business performance. Now, the clincher here is not whether or not to invest in hybrid work. It's really about the approach that you take to hybrid work. Are you operating by default? Are you living in the world where we had COVID, we all had to work from home, and we all embraced flexible and remote work in that world and just continuing with that pathway? Or are we actually asking ourselves, what is a more strategic and intentional approach that we can take to ensure that our hybrid approach drives critical business outcomes? And that means no longer thinking about hybrid as just what days people are in the office. We actually need to think about hybrid work as a driver of our business performance. So we do know that flexible work, and hybrid work is one type of flexible work. We do know that flexible work has a really strong business case. We know that it drives diversity inclusion outcomes. We know that workplaces that embrace flexibility can keep carers and working parents in the workforce for longer. We know it equals the plane for the opportunities for people that are living with a disability as well. We know that since 2015, dispersed teams outperform co-located teams in innovation outcomes. We know that our employees want flexible work. They value flexible work. We know that flexible organisations see greater impacts in terms of employee well-being, lower rates of depression in their workforce. We know that it's also associated with revenue growth as well. Now, with this research, what we can see is that at the end of the day, for hybrid work, and with this model, it's talking about working in the office 2 to 3 days a week, it drives greater employee happiness. And depending on what industry you're in, it's worth about as much as about 8% more pay for our employees. So again, we can see that based on the research, hybrid work has a really strong business case. And yet, there are challenges with hybrid work. I'm not going to stand up here and say that hybrid work is a silver bullet that fixes all of your problems. We know that there are challenges in the world of productivity, in the world of culture, and fostering connection with your workforce as well. So let's talk about some of those challenges. So the workforce provides an awesome opportunity for your employees to build relationships and to feel connected to your organisational vision and purpose. We know that when we have a workplace that people are feeling connected, we're going to perform better as an organisation. But unfortunately, feelings of connection across Australia have dropped post-pandemic. So since 2019, if we measure, and we have done this, so the Diversity at Work Council, they've asked workplaces across Australia and employees how connected they feel to their team and how much they feel accepted by their team. And what we've seen is since 2019, those results continue to drop. So we know that people are just not feeling as connected to their workplace and to the people that they work with. Now, unfortunately, many managers rely on meetings as kind of like the Swiss Army knife for fostering connection. We've got a problem with connection, let's just have another meeting. But the problem is that on days when we attend lots of meetings, we don't actually feel less lonely. So research from Atlassian has found that 55% of people say they feel lonely at work, even on days when they attend lots of meetings. And if you're attending meetings that look a little bit like this and start like this, then I can't say I'm surprised that you're feeling a little bit lonely at the end of those days. So what do we need to do? We can't just rely on meetings to foster connection in our teams. We need to take an intentional approach to how we foster connection. And that doesn't mean assuming that getting everyone in an office and making them just spend time physically together is actually going to foster connection. So instead, intentional in-person gatherings actually boost team connection more than sporadic office attendance. So again, this comes from Atlassian, who are running lots of experiments with their dispersed workforce. And what they're doing these days is running quarterly team days where they get the whole team together to focus on connecting, to collaborating, and connecting to their strategy. So they don't answer emails, they don't just spend time in the office, they actually have a whole day together to really deepen that connection as a team. And that's something that we do at Inventium as well. So we're a remote business, we don't have an office, and so every quarter we get together and do these intentional in-person gatherings. So here we are back in February at the Werribee Zoo down in Victoria. Now, on top of those intentional in-person gatherings, we don't just have to rely on being together in person. So something that we do at Inventium, we've been doing this since about 2021, are virtual caves. So virtual caves is an idea that we sought inspiration from an organisation called Cave Day. And essentially every fortnight, we have a virtual meeting for 2 hours on a Tuesday where people can opt in to attend that meeting and to work together, but separately. So I will come to that meeting with a task that I need progress on. I will jump into the virtual Teams meeting and I'll share with my colleagues who have also come along for the day what I'm going to be working on. And then we put ourselves on mute, we keep our camera on, and we work away. So we're not together, but we feel like we're together. And these are those sessions where you can tap the person on the shoulder and say, oh, I've got a question, or can you help me with this? And for those days when you haven't necessarily had a chance to connect with the team, maybe you've been head down in a project, maybe you've been traveling, it's a really great opportunity to give people that sense of connection and to bring them together as well. Okay, I want to finally talk about culture, because I know that fostering culture in a hybrid workplace is incredibly challenging. And I think one of the key reasons behind that is because for so many years, we have relied on the office as a key driver of our organisational culture. And if we really embrace the world of hybrid and flexible working, we need to recognise that there are other levers we need to pull to build our culture without just relying on the office. Because at the end of the day, the four walls of your office do not make a culture. Your culture ultimately comes down to your values and the relationships that you foster within your organisation. And so we need to rethink how we build our organisational culture. So what I would encourage you to do is to look at your organisational values, the values that underpin who you are as an organisation. And I want you to think about, how do we bring those values to life for our workforce without relying on the office? So let me give you a few examples. GitLab. GitLab are a fully remote organisation. They are a development ops platform, and one of their organisational values is transparency. And they bring that value to life with their public by default approach. So at GitLab, everything is public by default. So this means if you are thinking about getting a job at GitLab, you can go and look at their employee handbook. You can read all of their policies. You can understand everything that they do as an organisation. What it also means is that if you're curious about some of the ways in which they work, so some of the challenges that they're facing with their platform, you can go and look at actually their issue tracker and see how they're prioritising all their issues. If you're curious about someone who works at GitLab, you can see every single employee at GitLab has a public profile. Now, obviously for this to work, it means they need very clear rules on what is not public by default, but they start from this position of anything you create, it needs to be public by default, because that is how we work as a business. That is our value around transparency. Canva. So almost a quarter of the workforce at Canva are remote team members. Now, that means that for Canva, to foster their culture, they need to invest in looking after their remote team members. And so they have developed what they call their Vibe team. There are people across the entire business who are Vibe champions and who exist to create positive vibes and bring the Canva experience to their remote employees. And so one of the most popular initiatives that they have brought to life, again, which connects to one of their values, which is to be a force for good, is their Force for Good Fridays. So every employee at Canva has 3 days a year that they can use for volunteer work. Now, if you are a remote employee, you can use that however you like. So if you live out in Dubbo and you're not near an office, you can go and volunteer at your local school. You can volunteer at your local charity. But if you do want to come to an office, you can come to their Force for Good Fridays. So where they get together as a team and they go and work at a charity together. So one of their recent Sydney events, they went out to Oz Harvest and created meals together as a team for the homeless community of Sydney. And this was them living their value of being a force for good. And it didn't rely on an office. Final example. This is KidsCo. This is KidsCo are an education provider down in Melbourne. And one of their values is make it better. And this is their approach to their customers and to their products and services. They always want to make them better, but they always adopt this approach with their employees as well and their culture. And so they created an initiative where they encouraged their employees to set a personal goal. Set a goal for learning a new language, embracing a new skill, getting healthier. And if you commit to that goal for 6 months and you achieve that goal, we'll give you $1,000. So they had a large number of their team get involved in this. They were learning French, they were quitting smoking, they were running marathons. And the first time they ran this, 70% of their team members achieved their goal. And this was just another way in which they brought this value to life. So, the most progressive organizations will empower company culture to largely be built outside of work. I want to encourage you to think about, how do we tap into our values as an organization and bring those to life in a way that doesn't rely on the office? And that's one of the key ways that you can continue to build culture in the hybrid workplace. So at the end of the day, hybrid work is a strategy. It's not a policy. It's not just about what days are people in the office. It's about how do we foster connection across our teams and ensure that our people feel passionate about our purpose. It's about building a culture that keeps people coming back and helps you to win in the industry. And it's about ensuring that your investment in hybrid ultimately results in a positive return on that investment for whatever it is that you're trying to achieve for your business. So I've got a little video I want to play for you just to finish up before we get into some Q&A and to hear any questions you might have about what I've shared or about anything else about the future of work. And this is a video from HP. I saw this video about 2 years ago when I presented at one of their customer events, and I always loved it, and I just want to share it with you to wrap us up.
So, you want to be successful, huh? Well, let's go over the ground rules. You need to come in early, work through lunch.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Burn the midnight oil. That's not what I meant. And keep your eyes on the market. Different market. Master the cold call.
That sounds perfect.
You can't be serious. And 2 words. Firm handshake. Firmer. Ensure you get plenty of face time with the boss. And dare I say, brown nose from time to time. This dog gets it. So come on, defy the pecking order.
Here, try one.
Sell your own grandmother. This is not an office. Is anyone listening? Bend over backwards. Give in to the daily grind. What's happening? And always dress for the job you want. I give up.
So I love how that video brings a little bit of a levity to a world where we know that not everyone knows the answers. In fact, no one knows the answers. But what we do know is that if we do want to succeed in the future of work, we need leaders that are ultimately going to help us succeed. We need to ensure that whatever we're investing in when it comes to our people and culture, we need to know that it is resulting in a positive return on that investment. And we need to really explore how to make hybrid work have a more positive impact on our business by taking that intentional hybrid by design approach. So just to summarize, in terms of what I want you to walk away from today with, I want you to stop thinking about hybrid work as just what days people are in the office. I want you to start thinking about how you can build culture outside of just the workplace. And in summary, to come back to the start, we're going to promote people who are not just technically savvy. We want to ensure that we set our people leaders up for success as well by giving them support. And so we're going to start supporting our people leaders and building that culture outside of the physical workplace, as well as asking, how would we know this was successful when it comes to our investment in our people? So if that has sounded interesting to you and you're keen to read more insights from our Future of Work white paper, you can scan the QR code on the screen right now and you can get access to that report. There's 7 insights in there, lots of little goodies to help you, to guide you in terms of your decisions and how you can really embrace the future of work. So thank you so much for your time. I'd love to get some questions.
Thank you, Charlotte. We do have time for a couple of audience questions, so throw your hands in the air if you'd like to grab either of the microphones that can move through the audience, and we'll get a question from you. Throw your hands in the air, grab the attention of the audience wranglers. I've got one for you. Inventium, am I right? Do you guys do the 4-day work week? Can you quickly explain how that works for people? Because the number of people I've spoken to at organisations that do the 4-day work week and say it is the future of work. The 4-day work week, it's not an idea of you do 4 lots of 10 for your 40, is it? The idea is 4 lots of 8, and I know we don't all do 8, but it's 4 days of work.
Yes.
In theory, makes everyone as productive as you would have been in the 5. What's your experience of the 4-day work week?
Yeah, so essentially the 4-day week is governed by this principle of the 100-80-100 rule, where we're going to pay people 100% of their salary for 80% of their time on the proviso that they deliver 100% of their outcomes. So this does rely on you getting really clear on what are the outcomes we expect of our people. So if they have a sales target, we're not just going to drop that target by 20%. They still need to achieve that 100% outcome. But it's really about recognizing that so many of us have a lot of dead time in the day. And we're wasting a lot of time in meetings that might not be effective, in processes that are just a waste of time. And so it really empowers your workforce to say, well, what can I do? Because I'm super motivated by the idea of taking Friday or whatever day it is off. What can I do to get my work done in a more efficient and effective way? It's a really, really interesting motivator for people. It's like you're dangling that carrot and you're saying, well, you could continue to waste your time on a Tuesday, or you could find a way to do your work in a more effective way and then get that Friday off.
Do you have a set day that you take off every week? Does it rotate around? Is it different around the organisation? Do most people go either Friday or Monday to make it a 3-day weekend? What's your observations?
So the thing with the 4-day week is every organisation does it differently. So at Inventium, we take always the Fridays off. It's a fixed day, and that's because we're a small team. We wanted to make sure that we protected the time that we do have together during the week. But also, lots of organisations do rotating days, and it really ultimately come back to empowering employees to pick the day that works best for them. It does require a little bit of coordination, but at the end of the day, at the heart of the 4-day week is trusting that your people will do what they need to do to get that positive outcome, and really giving people that flexibility to take the time off that suits them.
Fascinating stuff. Any other questions for Charlotte on what she's raised on Work in 2025? Scan the QR code if you want to dive deeper into that fascinating Inventium report. Give her a round of applause. Thank you so much, Charlotte.
Thank you. Thank you.